What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking the latest episode of Broken Skull Sessions with Bayley, which we'll get to in a moment. But before then, I do got to mention this, considering it was a Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast here. I had the chance to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin for an article for Bleacher Report last Friday, which is up on Bleacher Report right now. And the audio of that interview is right up here on the channel currently. Go back and check it out, published on Friday. It's in the interviews playlist. I got interviews up there with, last week alone, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Apollo Crews, and Keith Lee. Quite the awesome mix of talent there. The Stone Cold Steve Austin one was just on another level. The Keith Lee conversation was great. The Apollo Crews conversation was great. The Austin one was on another level. For obvious reasons, it's Stone Cold motherfucking Steve Austin. So go back and check that out. We talk a little bit about the Bayley interview. I asked him who his next guest on Broken Skull Sessions was. He confirmed it was Bayley. We recorded that in late 2020, like right after Christmas. So that's why we kind of talk about 2020 in the whole and stuff like that, even though it was published on Friday, and the timing could not have been better, because Stone Cold celebrated 25 years in WWE that day. 25 years to the day since he debuted in WWE, which is really cool stuff. So anyway, go out of your way to check out that interview when you're done listening to this review of Broken Skull Sessions with Bayley. I had the chance myself to talk to Bayley a few months ago for Bleacher Report as well. Just an awesome interview. This was very good stuff. I still have to upload the audio of that interview, so hopefully that's up at some point in the next couple weeks or months. Yeah, so we kicked off the episode here with Austin admitting that he is a big fan of Bayley's new haircut. Now, it's not like Bayley and Stone Cold text on a constant basis, he confirmed later on, but he is a big fan of Bayley. He said as much in our interview that the three people he will go out of his way to watch WWE for, and he's a big fan of Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre and what they're doing right now, but just given the current circumstances, no crowd, he's not watching the shows regularly, but he will go out of his way to watch whatever Bayley is doing, Sasha Banks is doing, and Charlotte, now that she's back. And probably Becky too, but I guess he's really specifically, honed in on those three people. Becky's not there right now, so that's probably why. So he's a big Bayley fan. He's had Bayley on his podcast before on Podcast One, the Steve Austin Show, like 3 or 4 years ago. But this was a much better interview, I think, because so much has happened since then. And she could be very honest about her place in WWE from the last time that she was on a show 3-4 years ago. So Bayley's gotten used to her haircut. She wasn't a big fan of it at first because it was such a drastic change, but she likes it now because it's very low maintenance, and, she likes it a lot for that reason. Even though she was shocked initially when she first cut it, and people backstage were shocked, and they were like, oh no, I can't watch you cut it, because it was a very distinguishing feature about her. Like the long hair she had forever, even dating back to her indie days, so it was very shocking when she cut it, but she's grown to like it a lot. So Austin initially congrats her on the PWI cover from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which I have a copy of actually with me. I haven't read it yet, but she is on the cover with Sasha Banks, and I think it came out like in December or November or whatever, and they were like the top 5 ranked women in 2020. It was Bayley at number 1, 2 I think was Becky Lynch, 3 was either Asuka or Charlotte, reversed those two, and then the 5th one was Sasha Banks. And Bayley remembers, obviously she was always a big WWE Magazine person, as was I. She had the subscription to that. She always put in the money every month to get new issue and whatever. PWI she wouldn't get regularly, but she would see it at like a grocery store, and I was the exact same way. I don't have a subscription to PWI, but I will, look for it, see if I can find it at the grocery store, at like Barnes & Noble and stuff like that. And that's where she found out a lot about a lot about wrestlers that she wasn't previously familiar with. So to be on that cover was pretty crazy for her. And she feels like 2020 was her year. And then Austin shows a picture of himself on the PWI cover, ranked at number 1 many, many years ago. So they share a beer, one of Stone Cold's IPAs. And I'm just convinced at this point that Broken Skull Sessions is just one giant advertisement for Stone Cold's IPA beer. Just because I feel like he drinks one in every fucking episode. And I guess if you're going to drink alcohol, you might as well drink your own alcohol. But, he gives everyone a beer. Bayley doesn't strike me as the drinking type, at least not a beer person. Maybe she is, I don't know. But she, he had a beer with Bayley here. He had a beer with Undertaker. Maybe Goldberg when he came on. It feels like a lot of people drink the beer whenever they come on the show, which is just, very funny to me. So anyway, Austin says that Bayley is doing the best work of her career right now, which is very high praise coming from him and him following her career from WWE, NXT up until now. So they actually re-show a promo that she cut when she first turned on Sasha in September. And I didn't realize this until I heard the promo back when they played it here, when she said, "Oh, I became Two Belts Banks. I became Dostrap Bayley. Bayley Dostraps," or whatever. I'm thinking, did she say Two Belts Banks on purpose? Was that like an intentional thing? And then she confirmed here, no, that was an accident. She was very mad that she messed up that line. And that she said that by accident. But it's not that you didn't notice. I mean, I noticed it when I listened to it back here, but she could very easily explain, "Oh, you were Two Belts Banks. I'm Dostraps Bayley," blah, blah, blah. So they show a picture of her meeting Bayley, or Bayley meeting John Cena when she was really young, like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years old. So she recalls meeting John Cena and Rey Mysterio that same day. And I guess she met John Cena multiple times. So she always had the support of her family. They would always bring her to the contract or the autograph signings and the wrestling school and stuff like that. It wasn't until the age of 12 that she knew that she wanted to be a pro wrestler. She idolized Lita a lot growing up, and a lot of this stuff is pretty common knowledge that she's discussed before, but she has a very cool story, so I like, hearing her talk about it again. But she idolized Lita growing up just because she knew that she would never be like Trish Stratus, but she could relate to Lita because she wore the baggy shorts and she wore the t-shirts, but she also had like her fucking thong hanging out half the time. So like she was sexy and beautiful and whatever, but she was also very relatable. She was like a tomboy like Bayley, so she felt that she could very much relate to Lita. She joined Big Time Wrestling's training camp soon after, and she had to wait until she was 18 to start training. That was probably one of their rules, but also because her mom, I guess, was never in favor of her trying to wrestle. So she told her mom, "Hey, when I get 18, there's nothing you can really do about that," so she has to wait until she's 18. She had her first match after 6 months there, and it was very scary for her, she said, because she was the only girl training in that facility for many years, actually. She talks about running the ropes and how that process was like. She didn't feel confident in herself as a performer, she said, until she met Serena Deeb. Now, I did not know that they were close as they were. I did not know that Bayley was kind of trained under Serena Deeb. Now, that was probably after she got released, because she was brought into the company in 2010. I think she got fired by late 2010, so it was definitely after she left WWE. And I know she was brought back as a trainer at the PC maybe 2015, or no, it was actually after she was in the Mae Young Classic, so she was brought back in 2017. In between there was when Bayley kind of trained under her, and Serena would bring her to the contract signings, or again, I keep saying contract signings. She would bring her to all the autograph signings and kind of have her shadow her to kind of see what it was like to be a women's wrestler and to learn from one of the very best. And I guess it was because Bayley said that Serena saw a lot of herself in Bayley, which is why she was kind of very determined to train her and kind of see her success through. So she was at an indie show one time, and I guess a WWE ref named Elias. I don't know if they're talking about Marty Elias. She didn't say Marty Elias. She just said Elias. Obviously not the wrestler Elias. But he was a referee that saw Bayley, put in a good word for her, like took her tape or whatever, recommended her to the right people at WWE. So she actually got invited soon after to a 3-day tryout at WWE. Got signed, obviously. They show a promo that she cut in FCW where she would break down every single fucking time talking about how much she loved wrestling. And she was one of the few people, so they would have promo class all the time in FCW. She was in a group where they had to do promo class and then another promo class because she was not good at promos at all. I mean, that's still kind of her weak point today. She's gotten a lot better, but, I mean, it took years of practice. I mean, this was back in 2013, so she had to do extra promo class. She remembers working with Summer Rae early on where she was like almost obsessed with Summer. Like it kind of came across like a Mickie James Trish Stratus dynamic when they would do the promos. So she studied up on that, watching the Mickie James Trish Stratus stuff. Superstar with, I forgot the name of the woman, but it's a not WWE Superstar, but a movie called Superstar that came out many, many, many years ago. And again, I forget the name of the actress, but I've seen the movie before and I know exactly what she's talking about. And she modeled her character at that point after the woman from Superstar, Mary Gordon or something like that. Maybe, I don't remember. So at any rate, her NXT personality, her NXT persona as a result really came off naturally because she wanted to be relatable. And these little girls and whatnot could see themselves in Bayley, a lot like she could see herself in Lita when she was growing up. So that was kind of the role that she played. Stone Cold asked, where did the 4 horsewomen shit come from? And she said, hey, Ronda and Shayna and whoever else are going to get mad at me, but it came from Ric Flair himself. I mean, he was the original 4 horsemen, so, I mean, she makes a good point. If it's going to come from anyone, it might as well come from the original 4 horsemen, that being Ric Flair. So Ric Flair, I guess, saw them one day, and he saw how hard they worked and said, oh, you guys are so great, you guys work so hard, you're like the 4 horsewomen. And then they ran with it. They got interviewed by Joey Styles for an article that I remember running on WWE.com back in 2015, I think. And they were doing the hand gesture, and it kind of took off from there. So Bayley said, actually, that she was the outcast of the 4 horsewomen early on. That she wasn't really close with anyone in the group until the matches with Sasha in 2015. Because she always thought she was different and that she would actually be the most consistent, because Becky and Charlotte didn't have a lot of experience. I mean, obviously Becky was on the indie scene, but she took a lot of time off before coming to WWE. Charlotte had never done it before. She picked it up real quickly. Becky picked it up quickly. So she really kind of everyone in the group, got the closest to Sasha. And Charlotte and Sasha were close early on. Charlotte and Becky got close. So then Bayley and Sasha became close, and Charlotte and Becky got close from that point forward. So she said that this is when they rewatched the Brooklyn match from TakeOver with Sasha back in August of 2015, which I was there for. Great moment. Bayley said, or great match even. Bayley cried, she said, before and after that match. And they went in there with the mindset that they would be the Rock and Stone Cold of that women's division. She never expected the crowd to be that invested, and she knew she wanted to go in there and have an amazing match, but she didn't know the crowd would be as invested in her story as they were. And it made for just a magical match, a magical night in Brooklyn, and their careers will always be intertwined as a result of that match. So they also talk about the Iron Man match, which I was very glad they did not gloss over. And she said she didn't even know where to begin with the Iron Man match. They didn't sleep for days. She and Sasha were very nervous and scared about that Iron Man match because they had never been in one before. They didn't know how to wrestle for 30 minutes without taking any breaks or whatever. That match was never supposed to happen. Sasha was supposed to lose the championship, which is why they did the whole curtain call thing after that match in Brooklyn, and then she would report, full time to the main roster. She was even already on the main roster. She debuted in fucking July. The Brooklyn match happened in August, but they decided to keep her down in NXT in addition to doing the main roster stuff so she could do the Iron Man match with Bayley, which it paid off, and it was an amazing match. So she said as champion, as the NXT Women's Champion, that was when she became a locker room leader. And she wanted to be that person to give people their first good match, like a Liv Morgan or a Peyton Royce or a Leah or someone like that, And that was really when she found herself as a worker. And I completely agree. When you think about it, that NXT Women's Championship reign, obviously the matches with Asuka and with Sasha are the most memorable. But also during that reign, she had 3 very good matches with Carmella, who she eventually became very good friends with in NXT, and they had a pretty good match on TV. One of the better Carmella matches I've seen. With Alexa Bliss, who wasn't very polished at that point at all. They had a very good match on NXT TV. And even Eva fucking Marie. Eva Marie had her best match ever with Bayley over the NXT Women's Championship. I think Bayley said in like a deleted scene from this episode that she would actually love to do it again with Eva Marie. It was such a fun time, which I agree was a very good match. So she really played that role remarkably well as the head of that NXT Women's division for the year that she was there for as champion. So anyway, she wanted to get along with everyone, and that really helped her in the long run while in NXT. She had the perfect setup for her main roster debut in Brooklyn, and then after SummerSlam 2016, she debuted on Raw the next night. Again, I was there for that too. Amazing moment. So she also talks about multi-person matches and how she defended the championship in a Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania 33. She hates multi-person matches, but she won that match anyway. And she felt even at that point going into it that she may not have been ready for that Raw Women's Championship run because she won the championship not on Valentine's Day, but the day before Valentine's Day in February of 2017. And she was very thankful to have Sasha there with her to kind of help her through that match and with the moment at WrestleMania. She called the WrestleMania very overwhelming. It was something that she always wanted to be a part of, and she's happy that she was able to, but it's something that very just, it's like you're on another planet. That's what she relates it to. So they kind of take it back a year and go to WrestleMania 32, which is where she sat in the crowd like a mark, like a fanboy, she says, because she's a crazy person, she's a nerd for wrestling, to watch the triple threat women's title match between Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Sasha Banks. She knew watching them, that was where she wanted to be. She knew that she wanted to be where they were, but she felt like she already was, and watching them do their thing because they always worked together a lot in NXT. And she said, in a way, they really paved the way for her on the main roster, because had she arrived in 2015 and the whole faction war shit, she would have very much been lost in the shuffle. She probably would have rebounded eventually, but like Becky, for example, one of the biggest women's stars today in WWE, or at least before she took time off, but when she first debuted, she really lost her way on the main roster, like really lost her way. They had no clue how to use Becky for like the first 6 months that she was on the main roster, and that had nothing to do with her. She was just doing a whole lot of nothing for a while. So she started to get annoyed around WrestleMania 32, thinking to herself, why am I not being called up? Like, I'm the best at what I do, and I've been down here for a while. I've done all that I can do in NXT. It's time for me to be up there with them. They actually watched back a promo from August of 2017 when, and this was amazing, when she got booed during a promo that she was cutting while she was fucking injured. The Toronto crowd booed her. They booed her, and she called it embarrassing, and you could tell that it's hard for her to watch back. And she was very hurt by that reaction, obviously. She knew in that moment that she needed to change. And it was because the company didn't really see her at being at a certain level, like a Sasha or a Charlotte or even as a Becky. They didn't see her as being on that same level. They kind of saw her at the step below that, doing the arm wrestling matches and the dumb shit. They didn't really see her being taken seriously, which is why they didn't push her past the Raw Women's Championship run. She admitted, actually, that she likes chamber matches. She enjoyed the one where they won the tag team titles, and she's done 2 chamber matches at this point, 2018 and 2019. And how winning the tag team titles that night with Sasha was one of her proudest moments, because she and Sasha had basically willed that into existence, being the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And she wasn't really overly familiar and with being a tag team wrestler, wasn't really experienced in that area until she started teaming with Sasha, and that was when she started to focus more and more on being a good tag team wrestler as time went on. So their title defense at WrestleMania 35, Stone Cold, it seems like he's trying to stir the pot here and saying that, hey, Charlotte and Becky got the main event of WrestleMania, you didn't, how did you feel about that? And she says, listen, no ill will, it was a huge deal to me and to Sasha to walk into WrestleMania as the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. We were proud to have that moment, to be able to walk in and defend those championships at WrestleMania for the very first time. They also did something for the first time, so it was very cool for both of us. Obviously, we would love to be at that level, but we were also doing something equally remarkable, so no hard feelings at all. Because all of them were doing big things on the same show. So she became a Grand Slam champion right after that. Again, another moment I was there for. In Hartford, at Money in the Bank 2019, great moment. She talks about the pressure of being a top performer day by day. But after winning the SmackDown Women's Championship in May of 2019, she became very frustrated. The Ember Moon match specifically did not go down the way that she hoped it would, and she was very disappointed with that, saying that it was presented her a different way, and the way that it went was something completely different. And it was a good match, but not what it could have been, given the level of talent involved. It was really forgettable, unfortunately. And she felt like she wasn't able to bring anything to the table at that point. And she struggled with how she could evolve and kind of maintaining who she is and not letting go of that and not having to change herself drastically, but also evolving where she wasn't the same person that she was as a character years earlier when she initially arrived in the main roster. But for a while there, she didn't feel like the champion. She was the SmackDown Women's Champion for the better part during that first reign for like 5 months, but it didn't feel like it to her. She had really felt flat as a character for like 2 years, because she told that to Stone Cold when they interviewed when he interviewed her the first time on his podcast in 2017. So for about 2 years, she felt really flat as a character, and it just didn't feel right. So she lost confidence in herself, and she also felt like this was the main quote coming from this portion of the interview that's up right now on the WWE YouTube channel. But she felt like she was slipping through the company's fingers. So she eventually reached the breaking point, and that as a character, and that she was told to cry after losing the SmackDown Women's Championship to Charlotte at Hell in the Cell 2019, And she knew after that point she was not going to get cheered. They were going to boo her. She needed to come back as a different Bayley, which is exactly what she did. So she felt very sad and scared when she first went heel because she had to shed that snakeskin and really become something incredibly different. But it was like a sigh of relief when she eventually went through with it, and it worked. So they rewatch her first heel promo from October of 2019, and she mentioned how she became the role model because her whole thing was that she wanted to be a hero to all these kids, and in her mind she still was. So because of that, she started to call herself the role model. And she says that everyone has been very supportive of her behind the scenes of her heel run. TJ Wilson, the former Tyson kid, has been incredible in helping her along. Sasha gives her a lot of great advice, and she gets a lot of help from her. But she also knew that she has to do it for herself, and that she only knows where this character is going to go and where she wants it to go. So because she's listening to herself, that's how the character became successful. And both her and Stone Cold feel that the 2020 run, where they were the dual champions and she was the SmackDown Women's Champion for the better part of 2020, that really rejuvenated not only her career, but Sasha Banks's as well. And they're in their element as heels. Even Stone Cold said, I like you better as a heel than I do as a babyface. And you're a great babyface, but you're a natural heel. I don't know if I agree with that. She's just a natural babyface as a person. I'm not sure if Stone Cold knows what the definition of natural means, but she is a great heel. She's an amazing heel. But the babyface stuff in NXT, when booked correctly, can be money. Anyway, but she said that was some of the most fun that she's ever had, and that she would not be the performer that she is today without Sasha Banks. So she's very thankful for Sasha. They rewatch her attack on Sasha from after they lost the tag titles in September of 2020. And, she wanted to be in ladder matches and TLC matches. She never told herself that she was going to be in a Hell in a Cell match, because it's not really a match that people aspire to compete in. But it ended up being one of the best matches of 2020. So she and Stone Cold rewatched that as well. She wishes there was a crowd there for it, and I agree. She also admitted while rewatching it that the kendo sticks can hurt a lot more than a chair does. And Austin again re-emphasized that he likes her more as a heel. And she feels like she has no restrictions. And she talks about her quick relationship, not romantic relationship, but like her back and forth with Michael Cole on TV this past year and how that's kind of developed, which is cool. She held the championship. She held the SmackDown Women's Championship from 2019 through 2020 for a combined 500 days, which is crazy. And she has wanted to show that she can just be consistent. That's her goal right now. But she still feels like she has a lot to prove. And she even said that being selfish has helped her this year, or this past year anyway, in 2020. She's always really wanted to help everyone else and put other people in front of herself and, make other people look good. But in being selfish, which you got to be sometimes, especially in this business, it's really made 2020. It made 2020 her year. And again, Austin emphasizes again, he's loving her current work, predicts the Hall of Fame for her, which is obviously going to happen at some point with all the accolades that she's built up over the course of her career and how good she is. Her remaining goals, two of them that come to mind, winning the Royal Rumble coming up and having a singles championship match at WrestleMania. Because all the Mania matches she's had so far, and Sasha can say the same thing, she's either been in Battle Royals, multi-women matches, or tag team matches. That's it. She's never been in a singles match at WrestleMania. And she wants that to change this year. Will it? Probably not, but it would be awesome if it did. So she and Austin, do another cheers to close out the episode. They recall the footage. They reshow the footage of them drinking a beer following his Madison Square Garden appearance on Raw in September of 2019, which was pretty funny. And it was not only Bayley, like he came through the curtain with Braun, and then she toasted with him in addition to, I think it was Sarah Logan, Sasha, maybe Becky? Becky, I think, was there too. It was Sarah and then some other random person like Ruby Riott or someone like that. And it was just a really cool visual to see all the women toasting with Stone Cold. And you could tell they were just on cloud nine. It was a great moment. And that was what they closed off with. This was a good episode. My only nitpick is you don't really learn a lot new about the whole Bayley story. Her backstory has been very established for years now. So you don't really learn anything new there. They've done a ton of documentaries on Bayley, and she's done a ton of interviews where she's discussed all of this, even the heel stuff. I mean, I interviewed her over the summer. She said a lot of that same stuff. She said a lot of that same stuff. When I talked to her back in July. So you don't really find anything out groundbreaking here. And that's not what these episodes always have to be about, which is fine. But I thought it was a good episode overall. It was an hour and 23 minutes. Was it an hour and 23? I think it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was an hour and 23 minutes or somewhere around there. Honestly, this could have been an hour long if they just trimmed off the replays. They rewatched a lot of stuff, and they do that from time to time here in the Broken Skull sessions, but they rewatched multiple promos that she cut, the Brooklyn match, the Hell in a Cell match, just stuff that did not need to be replayed. The Brooklyn match, maybe, the Hell in a Cell match I get, maybe one promo. They rewatch a lot of stuff, and it's just, they make quick comments about stuff that Bayley's rewatching. But other than that, they're just sitting there watching it. So it's like, what am I getting out of this? You know what I mean? If they're making a comment about it, I get it. But otherwise, we're just watching them watch Bayley, like watch herself. So I thought that was kind of weird. But other than that, that was my only real nitpick of this thing. I thought it was a really good interview. If you're a big Bayley fan like I am, you'll enjoy it. Nothing new, nothing groundbreaking, definitely not one of the strongest episodes of Broken Skull Sessions he's ever done, but that's just because all the other ones are that much better. But this was still really, really good stuff. So check it out right now on the WWE Network. Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bayley. Be sure to check out all my other Broken Skull Sessions reviews right here on the channel in the description box down below. Like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe for more daily content, including hitting that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have a great rest of your week, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.